Contrarians, welcome back to the Encrypted Capital Recap for Thursday, October 20th. First off, just want to say it's good to be back. Took a few weeks off, and now we are back at it. So let's see where we're at today for Bitcoin. We're looking at about 19,167. It is trading in a fairly tight trading range, which is what we'd like to see. If there is going to be a bottom forming here, we'll have to see if we get like one more dip to maybe take out some liquidity that's sitting below 17.7. Otherwise, hopefully, we'll get our bottom here. And I want to dive right into the news here. Let's just get right at it. It says Grayscale CEO is suing the SEC. He says the lawsuit isn't about Bitcoin. So if you guys don't know, Grayscale Investments had filed its brief last week. They're basically going after the SEC for the agency's refusal to let it convert its Bitcoin fund into an exchange-traded fund or ETF. It says that Sonnenschein really doesn't feel that the lawsuit is about Bitcoin. He says it's more about putting forward straightforward, common sense legal arguments that really ensure that investors are protected and that the SEC is acting within their mandate. So Coinbase is backing them on this. It says Coinbase backs Grayscale Bitcoin ETF. And essentially what's taking place here is that the fund claims the SEC is failing to apply consistent treatment to similar investment vehicles as evidenced by the commission's willingness to approve multiple Bitcoin futures ETFs, but refusal to allow spot market ETFs to go forward. And actually one thing I want to point out here, when we're talking about ETFs and futures and whatnot, this is something I actually just brought up when I had some gentlemen in the office the other day. It had to do with Bitcoin, the liquid index, because this goes back and shows, pretty much the most data. So I always like to use this chart here. But futures did launch, and this kind of just adds validity into what I think and how these markets work. That everything's really pre-planned and orchestrated well ahead of time, and these accumulations and pumps and dumps are all very well orchestrated and timed perfectly. And something that kind of gives the main validity to that statement is the fact that when Bitcoin futures launched, so when you're able to go long or short the market, when Bitcoin futures launched on Sunday, December 17th of 2017, that signified the top. Now with futures contracts, the contracts in particular, this one lasted for 365 days, so 1 year. Well, can you guess where the bottom of the market came in? Exactly 1 year later. 1 year later, the contract expires. They've made all their money on the way down, and now it's time to go ahead and reaccumulate. And like we like to see that flat trading, tight trading range before things really started taking off. So this happened back, the following year, so December of 2018. And then you had essentially till about April, so you had about a good 4 months of accumulation before we started moving to the upside here. So just some things to note, that this is all to entice people in and get them to buy tops and sell bottoms in fear of the market dropping lower. So keep that stuff in mind, that the people that are in charge do not necessarily have your best interest in mind. And also wanted to keep in mind, Gary Gensler, chairman of the SEC, also used to work over at MIT and actually taught blockchain technology. So this guy is very, very familiar. I can't imagine they'd be bringing a guy in that had knowledge of blockchain technology and not really utilize what he knows. And so who knows what will be coming down the pipeline, but I do have to think that his colleague, Silvio McCallie, may be onto something, since he created Algorand and he is an MIT professor as well. If you guys weren't sure about Algorand unlocking the potential of blockchain technology, it says that the Republic of Marshall Islands is a country around 50,000 people spread across more than 1,000 islands. It says the country relies heavily on cross-border finance and trade, and the complexities of that system can make it difficult for citizens to get certain goods and financial services efficiently. Now, the federal government is seeking to become the first to issue a national digital currency using blockchain technology. Officials hope the move helps citizens avoid high transaction fees, simplifies compliance with international partners, and protects against inflation since the currency will have a fixed supply rate. And the new currency will be based on what? The blockchain technology developed by Silvio Micali, the Ford Professor of Engineering at MIT's Computer Science and AI Laboratory, commercialized by Micali's startup Algorand. So I think Algorand's going to be a big player. I think that there's something that's going on there for what's coming out of MIT. I think that these guys are very, very well connected, and that there's going to be some sort of use case here, potentially between the federal government, the U.S. federal government, and Algorand. And this is just a hypothesis, but we do know that the 9 banks that funded the Quarter blockchain will be utilizing Algorand. So if you guys haven't dove into that yet, I got a ton of videos on that. Just go back a few months and you will see it's actually one of our most viewed videos when we dive into the ISO coins. So go ahead, check that out. Algorand DApp partners with SEC regulated company, just to kind of aid to my hypothesis here. If Algorand is already partnering with SEC regulated companies, do you think that that may be their in, that they are falling within regulation, that Gensler, Micali, and other individuals over at MIT have maybe set a plan or course of action in play, or one that will be in play for the future of what could be the digital dollar or digital currency as a whole? So my thoughts on that. Now, also wanted to point out, when we talk about everything being tied together and rigged, ex-SEC chair Jay Clayton joins crypto investor Electric Capital as an advisor. So Jay Clayton, who we all know was going after XRP and Ripple his last couple days at the SEC, he basically just left after he brought the lawsuit against Ripple, and now he's working for a digital currency company, crypto investor company. So you can't even make this stuff up at this point anymore. I know this is a little bit older of an article, but if you guys are new here, you guys can kind of get brought up to speed in what we've been seeing taking place here in the markets. Now, do you think they'd really be going to regulate cryptocurrencies if they weren't going to be around for a while? I don't think so. I mean, this market's been around for 10 years, or more than 10 years. If they really want to go ahead and shut things down, they would have done it already and knocked out the on and off ramps and the exchanges, but they haven't done that. They just invested more and more into it. Now you got Wall Street here investing in companies like Circle, which are partnered with Coinbase, which have funded the Center Consortium, which created USD Coin, which in my opinion will most likely be our version of the digital dollar. That's just my hypothesis. But if Goldman Sachs is involved, wouldn't surprise me one bit. So I would have to assume that USDC would be in the clear, even though they probably haven't even audited if they actually have a one-to-one backing or not. Who really knows? It's probably just going to work like fractional reserve banking, where they actually say they have more than they do in the war chest. But in all reality, maybe there's 10% or less there of what they actually say. Who knows? All I know is I want to take advantage of it, right? So begging agencies to provide guidance on crypto after better understanding risks. So again, to my point, regulation, understanding the risks. We must understand and assess the risks associated, blah, 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 right? We already know they're going to be regulating cryptocurrencies. They're going to be falling under certain guidelines. They're going to be only using certain assets and maybe getting rid of others. That's what I see in store, and you can see the plot unfolding day by day. Now, HODL, Tesla hangs on to all its remaining 218 million in Bitcoin in Q3. So we all know that Elon's been ragdolling everybody with the price going up, down, left, right, sideways, depending on whatever he's feeling like in the moment. Says the vehicle's manufacturer's latest earnings report for the third quarter shows it's made no changes to its Bitcoin holdings since its huge sell-off in the second quarter. So just to kind of recap here, this chart will show their digital assets and what they're holding, right? So what is that? 218 million on the balance sheet. Even though they said they were not going to be selling anything, then they actually went ahead and said they sold 10% to test market conditions. But if you look here, from March to June, they had liquidated their positions, right? They had exited their positions from 1260 to 218. So if we go ahead here And C, Musk says Tesla sold about 10% of Bitcoin to test market. This was back in June 14th of 2021, after he said that they would just be holding it. And then he decided to go and get all green with it. Like he didn't actually do his research and know how much energy Bitcoin used. Like if he didn't know, which I know he did, but let's just say he was relying on his team, right? Because he's got billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. Why his team members wouldn't give him the full briefing on exactly what Bitcoin is, how it's used. I think this is all just smoke and mirrors for the most part. It's blatantly obvious when you start to see that. What did I pull here? That he says he won't. Oh, he still owns and won't sell his Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Doge for whatever it's worth, right? But he's also sitting here backtracking, saying that Tesla won't accept Bitcoin after he says, basically leading people on, saying that they will, and then going on SNL calling Dogecoin a hustle, and then the price crashes immediately like 33%. It's just, this guy, it just annoys me just to no end. So who knows? Who knows what's going to take place with this guy and whatever he's going to say next. But all I do know is I think that a lot of things are on sale, and most of these guys will not tell you when they're buying. And sure enough, like next quarter, you'll see that like Tesla added to their balance sheet, another 218 million, and then that'll help either aid the price in going up a little bit higher than it already has, or maybe it'll act as a catalyst. Who knows? But this guy is being used as a market maker, and he knows it. And he wants to go out here and say, oh, well, I actually hurt my positions when I come out and say that something's bad with, cryptocurrency. No, you don't, because unless you think that everybody is a fucking idiot and they don't know that you can make money on the way down, called shorting, right? You can make money on the way down. He's not. Like he's not probably losing money doing and saying these things. He's not an idiot. Like if you're going to come out to the public and say that something's a hustle and you have the ability to short it before you do it, because all the hype has been generated over the past week that you're going to be on there and it's going to go even higher and it's going to hit that dollar, and yet you literally make 33% overnight on the downside. Not to mention if you add in leverage, you're trading on 10x leverage. You can make a quick 300% on 10x leverage with a 33% drop. Like, come on, we're not idiots here. Guys like me are not going to fall for that stuff. And maybe the retail people will, or people that don't really know about trading in general, but you can't only make money on the way up. You can make it on the way down, and that's how you do it. So I want to hear this bullshit. Hate Elon. Anyways, 740 million in Bitcoin exits exchanges, the biggest outflow since June's BTC price crash. Talked about this in our newsletter the other day. My buddy saw this and he's like, dude, Bitcoin's going to 3,500. Like, no, it's not. It's not going to 3,500. It's definitely going to have some sort of retrace before it even hits 3,500, even if that was the case. But he thought this was a negative thing, and I had to point out that, no, this is positive for Bitcoin. If money is moving off the exchanges, it means that people are storing their Bitcoin off the exchanges in the cold storage for a reason. The reason is they are not selling it. They are holding it for further price appreciation. That's a good sign. So we'll see. We'll see if this is what we think it is, which is a sign that a bottom is forming. Also wanted to point out cracking crypto exchanges next to close doors to Russian users. It says that Jesse Powell, who's the CEO, previously warned crypto investors about the risks of holding crypto on centralized exchanges. Just another warning. It did say that Russians will be able to go ahead and withdraw their money by request. Important to note, by request. But, if it's not your keys, not your coins, meaning if it's on an exchange, they own those keys. You do not own those keys. You are just having to trust that the custody provider, the exchange, is doing the right things with your money and is secured and protected. So that came out. We also had Binance linked blockchain hit by 570. So yeah, just to prove my point, this happened earlier in the month, but why you need to keep money off exchanges, have a solid custody solution, whether you're an institution or a retail trader. There are options for both. Obviously Ledger for retail, something like Fireblocks for enterprise. Also, South Africa moves to regulate crypto assets. Again, proving my point. They would not be regulating crypto if it was just going away. Very, very important to note here. So, with that being said, I think that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Encrypted Capital Recap. I can't talk. It's the first one back. Give me a break. But yeah, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter if you guys want to support the channel. Great way to do so. Catch you all in the next video.